The air conditioning stopped sometime after noon. At first I only noticed because the house felt unusually quiet. The steady hum that normally lived in the vents had vanished, and the air was slowly getting warmer. It wasn't a big emergency, just an inconvenience. My son-in-law Daniel usually handled things like that. He liked managing repairs, contractors, anything mechanical around the house. But he was out of town that day, and the heat was rising, so I called an AC repair service. A technician named Marco arrived about an hour later. He was polite, quick, and headed straight for the attic where the unit was installed. I stayed downstairs in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, listening to the occasional movement above me, tools shifting, footsteps on the attic boards. About 10 minutes later my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marco. "Sir, is there supposed to be a door behind the attic shelves?" I stared at the message for a moment. A door. I had been in the attic before, but Daniel had reorganized everything the previous year. Metal shelving units, labeled storage boxes, tool racks. He liked order. I typed back, probably just storage. A minute passed. Another message appeared. "Sir, this door has 5 locks on it." That gave me pause. 5 locks seemed excessive for storage, but Daniel worked in security consulting. He was always experimenting with unusual systems, reinforced locks, things that made sense in his world, even if they didn't in mine. Before I could respond again, another text arrived. "There's a carbon monoxide detector above the door." I frowned. That didn't fit. CO detectors belonged near furnaces or bedrooms, not random compartments in an attic. Then Marco sent one more message. "I hear breathing inside." For a few seconds I simply stared at the screen. I called him immediately. He answered in a lowered voice. "Sir, I don't want to touch anything that isn't my business." But I moved a shelf to reach the unit and saw the door. When I got close, I heard someone breathing. Slow, like they know I'm here. I looked up toward the ceiling. "You're sure?" I asked.
Yes.
I told him to step away from the door. After hanging up, I sat at the kitchen table for a moment, trying to sort through what I had just heard. The mind searches for easy explanations first. Maybe it was ventilation moving through pipes, maybe an animal. Maybe Marco misunderstood, but another part of my mind began pulling up memories. Daniel insisting no one move the attic shelves, Daniel installing extra locks around the house. For security. Daniel's habit of quietly shutting down questions about his projects. None of it had seemed important before. Now it felt different. I picked up the phone and called the police. 2 officers arrived first. Then another car shortly after. Marco showed them exactly where the door was hidden behind the shelving. We all climbed into the attic together. The door was real. Heavy wood reinforced with metal strips. 5 thick locks running down the side. A carbon monoxide detector blinking faintly above it. One officer leaned close and listened. He stayed still for several seconds. Then he stood up and said quietly, "Someone's inside." Everything changed in that moment. They knocked on the door. "Police. If someone is in there, respond." There was no voice from inside, but a faint movement followed. Just enough to confirm someone was there. The officers brought tools from their car and began breaking the locks one by one. Each snap echoed sharply through the attic. When the last lock gave way, the door opened slowly. Inside was a narrow reinforced room, and inside the room was a woman, alive, but thin and frightened, blinking against the sudden light. The officers moved quickly after that, calling for medical help, speaking gently to her, guiding her out of the space. I stood frozen a few steps away. The room had been inside my house the entire time. An hour later, Daniel's car pulled into the driveway. He stepped out looking confused by the police vehicles. Officers met him near the walkway. At first he seemed calm, asking what was going on. Then one of them spoke quietly to him. Daniel's expression changed. His shoulders stiffened, and his eyes drifted toward the attic window, toward me. For the first time since I had known him, he looked uncertain. The officers placed him in the back of the car without raising their voices. The door closed with a quiet click. That night the house felt unfamiliar. I walked through it slowly, thinking about how easily trust can exist beside something hidden, something breathing quietly behind a locked door no one thought to question.